counting to 5, and then we'll go there. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1. Make sure you're counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2. Beautiful.
I really hate that exercise. I'm so bad at it.
That's really hard.
So these
oh my gosh, you think it's so many different things at the same time. Ooh.
Right. So these are just some ideas for you. And remember, like while you watching Netflix or you are chilling watching TV, you can do these patterns easily. The next thing you're gonna do is left nose right here. So you're gonna conduct your 4/4 pattern. You're gonna go left, nose, right, left, nose, right, left, nose, right. So try it on your own. Left, nose, right. All right, so let's do it slowly with the 4/4 pattern. Start the 4/4 pattern. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Now add the left hand. Left, nose, right. Left, nose, right. Left, nose, right. Left, nose, right. Left. All right, good. So let's add a little bit of music and go a little bit faster. 1, 2. Ready? Pattern only. Pattern. Now add the face. Ready, go. Left, nose, right. Left, nose, right. All right, beautiful, beautiful. These are just exercises of hand independence. Now, the final exercise of hand independence is kind of crazy, and it's going to take some time to build it. I'm still trying to build it myself. So you're going to start conducting the left hand, sorry, the right hand.
What you doing?
Left in class.
Then you will follow with the right hand. So you'll follow your right hand with your left hand 1 beat after. So we're going to conduct a 4/4 pattern in both hands. So you'll do 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Everybody with me? So let's try that. 1 with the right hand. Right hand goes to 2. Left hand goes to 1. Right hand goes to 3. Left hand goes to 2. Left hand goes to 4. Right hand goes to 3. And then right hand goes to 1, left hand goes to 4. So let's try it really, really slow. So the left hand is 1 beat behind everything else. So we're gonna go, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. And so those are things you can practice. Good. Now we're going to go to our triangle.
No, this is why I don't play drum set. That right there.
And so all this is, we are just building your independent.
Remember then. Say hello to Muzzy now.
Can everyone see it?
Muzzy.
Give me a thumbs up.
Children is new again. Je suis la jeune fille. All new animation.
Okay, so for my new folks, let's just go through this real quick. We'll take 4 counts each. Everyone go to 1. Go to 2. Go to 3. Go to 4. Go to 5. Go to 6. So we're using both hands and we're mirroring both hands. So you'll catch up.
Right now.
1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 2, 3, 4. 3, 2, 3, 4. Go to 4. Go to 5. 6. Go to 1. 1, 2. Take 4 even counts. 5, 6. Beautiful. You guys are doing so much better. Good. Check out where the numbers are. All right, here we go. 4 even counts. And 1, 2, and 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5. Take 4 even counts. 6, and 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good. Now we're gonna go to some contrary angles. So I know some of you guys are new, and this triangle exercise is also on our Facebook group, so you can check that out as well. So one thing you need to do is, so we're not going to the number, just go to the number, go to the number, go. We're taking 4 even counts to get to the number to pass through the motion. So let's start this. Since it's different this time, it's contrary. Let's all go to 1. Everybody go to 1. 1 is in different spots. Your hand should be in different spots. Good. 2. Find 2. Find 3. 3, we completed our first triangle. Both hands should be down here. Good. 4. 5. 6. And we're back. Let's just try it. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Keep going. 1, 2. All right. Okay. So some of us are having a little bit of trouble with this one. So let's go back. Can everyone see this well? Do I need to make it a little bit bigger?
Are you following like one triangle with one hand and the other triangle with the other hand?
Yes.
Oh.
So let's find where 1 is in the contrary triangle.
I'm gonna have to switch to my laptop because my phone is too small.
So the left hand, the left triangle that you look at will be your left hand. The right triangle you look at will be your right hand. So everyone find 1.
Got it.
Everyone find 2. 2, look at 2, Lawrence. Look where 2 is in your left hand. Find 3, we come back together. Find 4. Find 5. And find 6. You're making a triangle. So the whole point of this is how you move through space. So we're not going 1, 2, 3, 4. We're taking even spots. 1, 2, 3, 4. Going, taking our time getting through the space. 1, 2, and 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. All right, let's try it one more time. Hey, everyone start with a good conduction pattern. For my new folks, let's all stand really good. Let's open our feet shoulder length apart. Put our weight of our body on our feet. Try to make our back and our spine as straight as possible. Shake your arms out, shake your arms out, shake your arms out, shake your arms out, and bring it up. Good. Put your arm down. Feel like you're lifting a heavy bag of groceries. Pick up a heavy bag of groceries. And hold it up.
Conducting class, but I'm trying to get it on
And then turn your hands around.
Chromebook instead of my phone because it's too
And
small.
your hands in the right spot. Make sure your elbows are not around your body. Good. So we're starting with this good conducting pattern here, and then we will start at
How do we do this?
2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3. Back to the front together. 4, 5, 6. Now start over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4,
Come on.
5, 6. Beautiful.
I think you have to log off of Zoom and then just log back on your laptop.
Okay.
Welcome to all of our new folks in the group. Good. So we're just telling you for this. These things are just to give you ideas and techniques that you can take and work on your own. We've been challenging each other to work to spend 5 minutes a day doing some kind of conducting. So you can sit and watch Netflix, or if you're playing Xbox in between games, in between quarters, just pick an exercise and do these exercises. Good. So the next thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna have you call out an adjective, and then you're gonna make that adjective with your face. So say happy, and then we're gonna say A-E-I-O-U inside of happy. So happy, A-E-I-O-U. Working on building our face and using our face as a communication tool. Monica, give us an adjective.
Upset.
All right, everyone show upset. A-E-I-O-U. Beautiful. Lorenzo, give us an adjective.
Confused.
So confused. Ready, go. A-E-I-O-U. Kelvin, give us an adjective. You're muted.
Yeah, that would help. Happy.
All right. Happy. Ready, go. Happy. A-E-I-O-U. So the reason we're doing this exercise is you have to train yourself to make your face a part of your conducting self. And the reason we do all these hand independence exercises is we have to train our minds to make sure our left hand is doing different things. So many times we want to mirror everything. And this gets us out of doing that. This gets our left hand used to being away and separate from our right hand. Good. Our next thing we're going to do is our hinge exercises. Okay, Leah, can you tell us about the 4 hinges we've talked about?
Yes. So you have this hinge here. And you have
The fulcrum.
the fulcrum, your wrist, elbow, and arm.
So everyone in the mirror, show your fulcrum. Just the fulcrum, not moving your wrist. If you could, everyone grab your batons, or if you don't have a baton, go grab a pencil or a pen, something like that. All right, great. grab your baton like you're about to play snare, thumb up. Good, then turn your wrist flat. Good, you wanna make sure you keep your wrist up, like you pretend like a quarter could stay on your wrist. So we're not moving our wrist. We're just using the fulcrum. And you wanna make sure your baton is still moving in this grip. Good, we go to our wrist. And for these exercises, I want you to be really, really extra and really, really do it more than you would with conducting. Pretend there's a drip of water, a piece of paper on the tip of your baton, and really, really, really go for that wrist and let that rebound happen naturally. So remember, trying to keep the forearm parallel with the ground. We're not turning like this. We're not doing anything like that. Trying to keep that together. Again, then when we do our forearm, we're using just this hinge. Just this hinge. And then when we do our whole arm for those big passages, we'll do the whole arm. So we're gonna play some music a little bit, and we're just gonna do some patterns for now. So we'll just start with the fulcrum and really focus it on, everybody stand up real quick. Really focus it on how you're standing with your posture and your baton. Keeping that baton parallel to the ground and just using the fulcrum. Get your elbows away from your body. You don't have to be out like this. It's not marching band holding the instrument up. So again, put your hands down. Lift up that heavy bag of groceries. Now turn it around, and that should set you up really, really good. So, all right, so just the fulcrum. Ready, go. Just the fulcrum. Really, really emphasizing the tip of the stick. Not using the wrist, just the fulcrum. All right, good. Let's go to the wrist. Really, really using that wrist. Flick that wrist. Now go to your forearm. And then whole arm. Good. So the exercise is going to be 4 fulcrum, 4 wrist, 4 forearm, and 4 whole arm, and then we'll repeat. Thumbs up, you got it? Here we go. 1, 2, ready, fulcrum. Wrist, forearm, whole arm, fulcrum, wrist, forearm, whole arm, fulcrum. Keep going, wrist, forearm, whole arm. Make sure your wrist is flat, fulcrum, wrist, awesome. Beautiful. So the next thing we're going to work on, we're going to talk about is how to go from slow music to fast. So just really quick, if you're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and stop and go. So let's just try that. So you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, stop and go. The stop and go will be in the 8th note tempo. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, subdividing 2 and 3 and stop and go. Just do the stop and go on the word. So get in 3, and I just want you to go stop and go.
Dr. Edie.
Stop and go. So let's just try 1, 2, 3, stop and go. 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, stop and go.
Dr. Edie.
Yeah.
Question. Hi, this is Vincent Rossi. Hey, on your stop and go, is that where your tempo changes?
That's where you're prepping the tempo to change.
Mm-hmm.
So you're gonna do the heading. So you go 1, 2, 3, stop and tempo change. 3, 4, 1. All right. So let's do 2 measures of slow and 2 measures of fast. And on the second measure of the slow, we're gonna do the stop and go. 2 slow, 2 fast. Ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Stop and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You're there. Try it again. Ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Ready and stop and go. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Good. So in this exercise, we're going to do. We're going to do four measures of slow and 4 measures of fast, and then we'll keep repeating it that way. 4 measures slow, 4 measures fast. After Jake from State Farm.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
All right. One, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, stop and go. 2, 3, and slow. 1, 2, 3. Get ready, transition. 2, 3, stop and go. Slow, go. 1, 2, 3. Get ready to stop and go. Stop and go. And so when you stop and go, it really gives your students a clear indication of the tempo and what you're doing. So that's just one exercise. We'll do 2 more quick exercises, and then I'll turn it over to the good doctor. I try to change the music up every week, but one song, this is my one song I play every week. Okay.
I did have a question.
Yeah.
When you're going from fast to slow, are you doing anything to prep the slower tempo as you did fast to slow?
Yeah. So normally you would know the 3 to 4, but we just skip over that tape. But so we'll just go 1, 2, 3, 4, go. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, go. It's almost like you're conducting the pattern, but you're melding the time. So you switch back and forth that way. Good question. Great question. Okay. All right. So this next exercise is just a swim exercise. We're going to start here. Left hand all the way out. I don't know if you can. Parallel with or even with your body. Joe. So we're going to come from here to here in 16 counts. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Beautiful.
So is your elbow staying straight until I can really see?
I couldn't hear you.
I said, is your elbow staying straight into a certain point, or are you bending it right away? I couldn't tell.
Bending it right away. Yeah. So it can conduct your pattern, conduct your 4 pattern. Left hand up. 16 counts. And 1, 2, ready, go. 1. Now 8 counts. 4 counts. 2 counts. 4 counts. Go. Okay, here we go. 4 counts. 2. 1, 2, ready, go. As even as possible. Some of you are conducting up this way and your baton is pointing to the ceiling. Try to get your wrist parallel to the ground. Beautiful. So that's another exercise for you. And then our last exercise we'll talk about today is a melded gesture. So just like we were talking about going from the slow to fast, we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, go. So with the melded gesture, the gesture is there so you don't, the music doesn't need all of the beats. So you're really kind of helping your students with the shape of the line or how you want the note to go. So let's just try this. We're gonna 1 pattern normal and 1 pattern melded. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, meld, go. So you're not really showing the time, but you're really internalizing the time. The real problem that we have as conductors is when we meld gestures, we either go too fast or too slow, but we really have to keep that internal pulse going really well. Let's try it together. 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, meld, go. 2, 3, 4, again. 2, meld, go. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, meld, go. 2, 3. Good. Let's try the meld on 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, again. So try the exercise and meld on 2, 3, 4. So 1 measure regular, 1 measure meld on 2, 3, 4. 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, meld, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, meld, 3, 4. 1. Good. Let's do 1 measure of 4 and 1 measure of melding the whole measure. So 4, and then energize throughout that whole measure. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, meld, meld. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Meld, 2, 3, 4. Good. All right. So I know a lot of these were very, very, very quick, but these are just exercises that hopefully throughout the week you just take time and just incorporate it. And I'm not saying like take an hour. I'm like really just talking about just taking 5 minutes of your time that you'll be on Facebook or something like that, just to kind of build yourself. All right, now I'll turn it over to the good doctor.
I don't know about the good part, but how y'all doing out there? Good morning. It's so refreshing to see, even during these quarantine times, people just taking some time to kind of just focus on self-health, in this regard, like kind of self-musicianship. So it's inspiring and kudos to see you all. So for those who don't know, I'm Kelvin Jones. You can ignore the good or the doctor. My mama named me Kelvin, so I'm named Kelvin. Like mama named Cassius, I'm calling Clay. So, but my name's Kelvin Jones, currently at LSU. Been here for a little while, and just gonna talk about some pieces or a piece of music that's near and dear to my soul, Second Suite in F by Gustav Holst. Just by a show of hands, and it's totally okay if not, who has never heard this piece before? All righty, cool. So I did post a score inside of the group chat, so you can kind of refer to that. Is there a way, Dr. Edie, for me to share my screen?
Yeah, so if you just open the score up on your computer,
Got it.
come back to Zoom, hit share screen, and then share, go to where it says Acrobat Reader, and you can share the score.
Acrobat Reader. All right, give me a second. While I figure that out, I'll play some of the recording from the Air Force Band of Movement 1, and you can just kind of refer to the score if you have it downloaded already while I figure it out on my end. I have to repost it? Okay. Sure thing.
So, Kelvin, do you have it open on your computer?
I do now.
So once you have it open on your computer, now you can go to Zoom and share that.
Gotcha. All right, so just a quick refresher for those who never heard that. So, one thing, can you see my screen? So,
Yeah.
Back to meeting.
We can only see your PDF.
Oh, even better. Cool. So, one thing I would say, so typically when we have a brand new piece of music, we listen to a score and we may start breaking down the actual contents of the score. So what I'm gonna talk about for the next few minutes is just how I would approach this and how I approach all music actually. So, of course you do historical background. So Gustav Holst wrote this piece after he wrote First Suite, quote unquote. We'll come back to that in a second. Wrote it early 1900s, published in 1922. And he also had some orchestra versions of this, but we'll get back to that in a second. So this piece in particular, what is it about? And this is something I heard former director of bands at University of Colorado, Alan McMurray, talk about that I kind of firmly believe in, especially as I teach. Like right now I'm teaching on a collegiate level, but even when I taught high school or even middle school, the more I can relate the music we play as much as I can into like a story or a movie, that makes it believable for the musician. It's just like if we had a movie, if you're Denzel, what is Denzel's character? Training Day, you know, a crooked cop. So that evokes a certain mood to kind of play the music in a certain way. So for me, Second Suite and F, what is this about? This is all based on a collection of folk songs that Holtz kind of got together and put inside the music. And so one of the philosophies or ideologies, I should say, that Alan McMurray talks about is if you had First Suite, if that was about war, meaning that a person's going to war and certain thematic themes Holtz does, like the bass drum hits in the Chaconne Movement 1, they kind of insinuates we're about to get ready to go to war, and the ending, the third movement of that, like a march, this can be considered as Second Suite, you're coming home from work. I mean, coming home from war. So movement 1, we're coming from where we are, we're marching back to our homeland. Movement 2, I love, is, you know, that soldier finally seeing their spouse. So, you know, however people show affection, that's kind of the second movement. Third movement, you can come home for so long, but after a while, if your spouse is anything like mine, you got to get up and work in some kind of capacity. So Song of the Blacksmith, you know, you're out there working in the hot heat. And then after you work for all week, then you want to have a good time, which is movement 4, Song of the Dargison, which is basically an Irish drinking song, because people, especially in Louisiana, if you will, we enjoy our libations. Drive-through daiquiri stores, just a big example. So kind of having that kind of idea of where the trajectory of the piece is going to be kind of helps set up a framework, if you will, of the emotion. Not only the students should play with the music, but also, how Jack indicated with the warm-ups, some of the certain facial expressions you can kind of convey with that. But that's not where we stop. The next level would be, all right, folk songs. So I'm looking at the first part of the score, Morris Dance, Allegro. We don't have a tempo indicator on here. Yes, I could base it on what the Air Force did, but my big thing is, how can I, A, be true to the original intention of this, and then subsequently, B, make it a unique experience? How can we make it, when we perform it, different from the rival high school down the street or the performance we heard, you know, on the recording? How can we make it our own? So for me, I'm looking at, all right, what is a Morris Dance? So looking it up, Morris Dance is basically like a form of celebration that people did back in that area. And so for me, I would want to go back to, what is the original folk song that this originated from? So I found some. Let me play an example of that for you here. you kind of got the idea from there. So for me, if that's the original intention, maybe my Allegro isn't really pushing even though I heard the United States Air Force Band play it that quickly. Now, my interpretation is if I want to honor the true folk song nature of this, I'm going to base it on the mode song technique of it. Because you think about it, has a slight jig to it, if you will. Versus that's more headbanger-ish, at least to me. And so I wonder if I move this over, can you all see what I have a photo of, or you only see the score right now still?
Only the
Okay, so let me stop share, screen share. There. So now you see this example of the Moors dancing in London. Yeah. So this is actually a visual example of how people would be dancing to a pipe as well as a tabla, which is a certain percussion instrument, back in the 1600s. And this is actually the music of where Holtz got his original folk song from, called Glory Shears. That slight ornamentation of the triplet. And again, this is just some of the historical aspects of it. So again, now I'm going back to my score. And I realize, okay, I have a different interpretation of how this tempo is going to be. And I want to show of a true nature of this. So all that stating, I can go back to the actual score. Now you see the score, correct? Awesome. So now if I go back to here, now I have a different perspective of this. So going through the basic things, we start with the low brass, all based on like an F major scale. I think we can all agree to that. Then basic goes from lower tessitura, upper brass, upper woodwinds, excuse me. And then by measure 3, coordinates have that melodic material. One thing to be careful of, the tendency is like always to rush that. Especially measure 6. We don't quite give that half note time to taper. So for me, I'm thinking about if I were to conduct this, for example, which we all do, I'm not thinking about 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. For me, where is the phrase going? So first 2 measures is kind of self-explanatory. Call and answer. Then you have measure 3. You can interpret that as a 2+2, or for me, that's a 4-bar phrase. So so after that, when I get to the downbeat of 6, it's basically pushing me 4 measures, and then I apex, if you will, by measure 6 to release. You may even see like a written in decrescendo there. This is just spitballing after I sing it a few times. How does this phrase resonate to me? So my conducting, if you will, if you can see me, it's like a that left hand can kind of show that melded gesture we worked on earlier to get to beat, to measure 6 to show you taper from there. So ideally, but you can also interpret that. Again, it can be an exercise where you can do where the students play it, and then they can see which one resonates with them, or you just kind of have an oral image of how you feel that phrase should be. And you can kind of do the same thing, the next phrase of that, which basically repeats. Letter A, ding dong, the witch is dead. That is a spot where people are definitely going to rush, especially it's forte. We all come in, it's kind of 2D scoring here. What I like to do is I like to slow that part down, like I'm talking 5 beats. So ding dong ba-dum bum bum jump digga. So by the time we get to 3 after 8, we're kind of going back to the true tempo of that. And in particular, if you look at the percussion, this is when the first time at letter A we have bass drum and cymbals. And while that may be a minor detail, that kind of shows me why is it important there. This is kind of one of the first climactic points. So I want to highlight that. And in my scores, I always super highlight percussion in red because it just lets me know, put eyes on them as soon as possible. And then also just to kind of talk about from the exercise we did earlier, this can be a spot where we kind of indicate a different adjective of how we want it to be. Maybe the first part is more subdued. You just chilling. Letter A. Boom, dum, ba-dum, dum, dum. Your eyes open up, maybe, or as Jack did earlier, A-E-I-O-U. You can use all those examples right there at letter A to kind of show that different A for adjective once we get to that spot. And so once we get there, ding dum ba dum dum dum, zing da da dum da da dia da da dum da dia da da dum 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 da da dum bum 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 be. Pretty straightforward 8-bar phrase. One thing I would encourage to highlight is if you look around measure 16, we have a difference in the counter line. In particular, in the horns, in trombone 1, trombone 3, euphonium, and the tubas. In this case, the basses. So if I start back at A, D, dum, da dum, 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 D, da da dum, da da dia, da da dum. That's a melody, obviously. Da da dia, da da dum, dum, D. Now look at the counter line. Da da di da dum. We kind of go down scalarly. Da da di da da dum, bum, bum, beep, bum, 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 beep, bum, 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 beep. We didn't have that before, but he throws that in this time. So this is an indicator for me. I may highlight in my score. I want to make sure I bring that part out. And even though there isn't a dynamic change, we're all at forte. But as we know, all fortes aren't equal. So there, I may bring that out in a rehearsal setting. All right, horns, trombone, 1 and 3, euphonium and tubas. I want you to bring that out one dynamic level. Bring that out the tessitura. And then you can also take that moment to kind of highlight the coloring you wanted. Maybe you want it to be more horn dominated. Maybe you want it to be more trombone dominated. Maybe more euphonium, tuba, etc. You can hit the balance later, but you're highlighting something that hasn't been done before. And that's another indicator there where you may want to, I want to show a different adjective because I've been working 5 minutes every day while playing my Xbox One on this brand new adjective of super excitement. So bam, I'm going to hit them right here. They ain't going to be ready for this. So letter A, smiling, A-E-I-O-U, dum, dugga, dum, dugga, digga, dugga, dum. Here go trombones. Oh, digga, dugga, dum, bum, 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 Z. Then we get to letter B now. So we have all this excitement, if you will. Letter B, dynamically, we all see that's piano there, right? Let me see if I can go here. So piano, and one overall tip, bands typically don't play this soft enough. And if you think about that, let's say dynamics are like in numbers. 1 is like 3 Ps, 10 is like 3 Fs. We're going from like a forte, let's say a level 8, to a piano, like a level 3 or 2. That's a huge ram. Bum, 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 dee. That's really light there. And then I look back down to percussion. How could I sell that? Look at the percussion that Holtz writes there at letter B. It's just triangle. So for me, we're going from heavy, big. We had crash cymbal and bass drum at letter A. Letter B, triangle, very dainty, very light. And he scores it with just the upper woodwinds. Now to take it one more step further, because typically you'll have the kid, all right, I'm gonna play this on a triangle. But for me, the triangle has to sound a certain way. For me, this is a light triangle. So the smaller triangle with the smaller beater, it has to hit and be articulated on a certain portion of the triangle in order to produce a certain color. Like I'm getting that detail with the students so they can know you have to play this a certain way because you triangle player, I'm gonna make up a name right now, Sarah. Sarah, your part is so critical to setting up the entire atmosphere for letter B. We went from ding dong, which is dead, to all of a sudden fairy tale, fairy dust, godmother, if you will. So setting that up ever so lightly. And then thinking about the phrasing, how would that go? It could be rooted in downbeat oriented. That, or other option could be 2 plus 2s. Or it can be a 4. Any of those could work. The one thing that cannot work, again, according to the Gospel of Kelvin Jones, it can't be stagnant. That's just like, sorry, I live in Louisiana. That's just like having some good gumbo with no salt and pepper, no Tony's, no slap your mama. It has to have something. It has to slap somehow. So we have to phrase this in some kind of way. It can't be that potluck gumbo, no pun intended. So, you know, we have to have an idea before we get into there. Okay, maybe we push this 2 measures here, or again, this is an opportunity for you to kind of get the students to think musically. We're getting past the notes. We're getting past the rhythms. We got that down. Now, how can we make this different? And so now we have B, setting up the atmosphere, maybe light, and then we go back to C, which is the same material we had before. The theme comes back in. So basically the same intro, and back at letter D again, we have the same thing we had back at letter A, if I'm not mistaken. Ding dum ba dum bum bum. So for me, I'm always thinking about if we have the exact same thing again, how can we make this slightly different? So maybe at letter D, that can be maybe a forte plus or a forte minus. And for me, it's probably going to be a forte plus because you look through letter D, when we get to, let's say, 4 in front of letter E, E is an Elgar, we have that diminuendo. And then especially at 42, we have a crash symbol. So I'm starting at letter D, ding dum ba dum bum dum, ding da da dum da da dia da da dum dia da da dum 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 da 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 dum bum 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 bum, crash. Because now we have this extension now. Crash, ding, boom, beam, boom, beam, boom, boom. And then we go into an entirely new folk song. So if I'm conducting this, just thinking about this whole trajectory, if you will, those 8 bars of letter D probably going to be similar in some capacity to what we had at letter C, but I'm definitely going to set up at 42 this big crash symbol hit. And then instead of conducting 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, going down into letter E, that's probably just going to be a big melded gesture, the exercise we worked on earlier, from big to kind of show small. The one thing with music like this, you don't have to, if anything, you can show little to no beat pattern, if you will, because a lot of this is implied in the music. One of the big fundamentals we talk about in my groups all from day one is the conductor is not responsible for tempo. A good composer has some form of way in the music to where you have different people responsible for pulse. So if you look in this case, you can rely on percussion, letter D, dump, D, hit up, ba, da, digga, da, digga, 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 da. I don't have to show beat pattern for that. Listen to snare drum right there. Now, snare drum, make sure we're locked in and we're together. We're not speeding through that, but lock in for there. And then now that opens me up to show phrasing ideas, cues. You come in this way. You get softer. You get louder. You come in this way. So now you're like the DJ, if you will, versus the one just pressing stop and pressing pause, or pressing play in this case. So let's do this. Get to where you can conduct. We're going to conduct from the beginning to letter E. You kind of refer to the score if you can. That'll be awesome. Think about a few things, for example, of how you want that to be phrased and done. I gave you ample things to think about, and I really want you to try to just go for getting after the music. You don't have to do beat pattern because we're playing a recording. So if you stop conducting, it'll keep playing. Just go for it, whatever musical ideas you have. All right, I'm gonna count down from 5, then we'll begin. Here you go, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, not that, this. Now get small. Now bigger, C. Set it up. Press cymbal. There you go, there you go. So now we're getting there. I'm gonna try it one more time, and I want you to just literally go for it. Like, I want you to look absolutely ridiculous. If it's a forte, go like ham forte. If it's piano, go like ham piano. Because obviously, well, at least I've learned this here. Sometimes we have to, even though you may feel like you're going level 10, in order to reach the trumpet players in the 3rd or 4th row, you have to go like level 15 for them to kind of get to level 4. So for right now, for practice purposes, I want you to go like ridiculously big for the fortes, ridiculously small for the pianos, maybe even show some cues of triangle here. Crash cymbal, you better play it like that. Like literally looking that ridiculous. One more time from the beginning. 3, 2, 1. Nice. So by a show of hands, who feels absolutely ridiculous just conducting just now? But that's cool, right? Like, well, at least for me, sorry. I have inner philosophy. The coolest thing we do in life is music, and we get to make music in some kind of capacity and move to it. So sorry if my geek level of this is like too much for you, but you're with me for the next few minutes. So for me, it's all about trying to get those idiosyncrasies of what we're doing to convey that to the students. But let's keep going. So now we have letter E, different thing. And now we have the euphonium.
What happened?
Now let me go to actual, let me see, I have this. Let me share here. So it goes back to the beginning. How should I phrase this? And so I'm going to refer back to, again, the actual folk song. So here's Swansea Town from 1905. Oh, farewell. Can y'all see that, by the way? Yes, cool. So the actual lyrics. Oh, farewell to you, my Nancy. 10,000 times adieu. I'm bound to cross the ocean, girl, once more to part from you. So now to go back to our original idea of we're coming back from war, right? We went there, we kicked whoever's butt. Now we're coming back on the sailor ship. And so now, dum da ding bum bing bum bum. The melodic idea is in the euphonium, and it's kind of highlighted by these trombone hits, which can kind of insinuate Navy men marching. Boom, boom, zing, 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 boom, bing, boom, 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 ba ding, boom. So for me, that has a little bit more direction, a little bit more poignancy to how we're gonna play this. Here, let me go back to the score. Score there. And we see the score here. So now going into letter E, Swansea Town, boom, ba ding, yum, bing, boom, boom. For this is a moment where you can almost little to not conduct at all. I would actually encourage you, less is more. Ideally, the soloist is going to lead this line, and then we have all the downbeat hits, the soldiers marching in the first and second horn, trombones, and the tubas. So that's going to be our pulse. And for them, I want to make sure that they are listening to the soloist, and the soloist is listening to them for pulse. And so for there, you just lay in the pocket, cut little to no conducting. And then for me, I'm not going to kind of rear my head into round 60, which is 3 in front of F. When trombone 1 and horn 1 have this ascending line, boom, ba-dee, boom, 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 tuba, ding, ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum. So for me, just a slight indicator, you all going to play here, horn 1 and 2, and then trombone 1. And then we're kind of going down the bases. Bing, ba-dum, ba-zing, ba-dum, bum, bing, yum, bum, ding, bum, bum. And then that can be ideas for the soloist. How would you phrase that? Maybe you're going to go up, when you go up to that upper F, like around measure 53. Ideally, of course, that note's going to be really sharp on that instrument based on the overtone series. So they're already aware they got to bring that pitch down. Same thing for the A and 2 measures in front of that. But technique aside, ba-da-dee-da-da-da-dee. Do you want a decrescendo on that sustained note? Crescendo, slight vibrato? We have to do something. The wrong answer always is doing nothing. We got to be musical in some capacity. So moving forward here, letter F, same type of ideas. And then we start getting the cavalry, if you will, 2 in front of G. And it's kind of indicated by the snare drum there. Snare drum has that rolls, yo, boom, beep, boom, zone, ba-ding, boom, 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 crash. And now look at that for a second. We have fortissimo, the measure in front of letter G, G for Gustav, but it's probably not really forte until 81. Dum, ba-ding, boom, 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 boom. And look at 81, which is 3 after letter G. You see that bass drum and that cymbal hit at the fortissimo? So even though we have fortissimo written in the music coming in at G, the phrasing wise, we have to get to 3 after letter G for that phrase to make sense for me. And then also in this section, Holtz talks about, he uses percussion as if it is tone painting. And by tone painting, he's referring to the colors that they produce kind of convey a certain visual image. So this is kind of the third verse of the Swansea Town. It's about the ship going into a violent storm and the ship being overturned. So in this case, he's kind of using percussion to kind of convey that. For example, the snare drum is conveying the wind, the cymbals are conveying the lightning, and the bass drums are conveying the waves. So now if percussion has that image already, they have to produce a certain sound, those instruments a certain way in order for this to actually make sense. So if I start singing 2 in front of G, boom, boom, bing, boom, dum, ba-dum, boom, 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 crash cymbal, bass drum, boom, crash, boom, bing, boom, boom, bing. So even 83, 84, 85, how the bass drum and the crash cymbal just have 3 half notes. For me, I want to crescendo that 10,000 miles ado. Each one is going to progressively get a little bit more and a little bit more. So now I'm getting my percussion to think about the music more, you call this horizontally versus being more linear here. Because ideally, I want to make sure it come in the right time, but no, has to come in at the right time at a certain pacing with that. And the same thing for the rest of the winds. So it's just singing through again. Boom, ba-ding, boom, 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 boom. Boom, crash, boom, crash, boom, crash. Boom, dee, dum, dum, boom, beep, boom, 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 ba-dee, boom. That same little idea comes back again in 92 in horn 1 and 2 and in trombone 2. Same thing in alto sax and tenor sax where they go up scalely. Bum ba-dee bum 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 dee ba dum da ba dee da dee da da bum 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 dee da 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 dee. Then we get to the kind of the coda of this phrase. Bum dee dum dum bum beam bum 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 beam bum beep bum 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 crash bass drum. That kind of ends this actual Swansea Town idea from there. So now let's conduct through this portion of it. So I'm going to pick it up where we left off in the music, going into letter E, kind of conducting this. So again, when it comes to the euphonium solo, conduct little to nothing, but set those up, your cues for around like 60, 61, and 62. Bum 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 bum, two ba 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 dee ba dum bum bing bum bum bing bum bum. But really save your energy for when we get into letter G. All righty, here we go. Counting down, picking up from there in 3, 2, 1. Just foot soldiers here, very light. Here you go, you play here. Get softer again. Now set it up. Crash. A little bit bigger. All righty, so we have all of that now. We in. Oh, cool, great. We're back at F major. All is well. We probably made it home. We swam from the sunken sea. Now, Holtz, we go to Claudie Banks, which is a different folk tune here. And if this was a class, I would give 30 seconds to figure out what key we're in, but we're in minor now. So be bum she bum yum bum. And not only is it minor, we're also fortissimo. So again, like I did before with the other folk tunes, I want to go to the original work to see how exactly should I phrase and think about the movement of this. So I'm pretty sure we've all heard all the recordings of this, but let me blow your mind for a quick second. Share screen, folk tune, which is here. This is the original folk tune of Claudie Banks. I'm sorry, go ahead. Was that a question? No? Okay, cool. So here's the original folk tune of Claudie Banks. Down by the banks of Claudie, I carelessly did astray. There I behold a young. Look at maid now. Let me see. I'm zoom in on that. You see that fermata over that? Interesting. So this is from the 1909 recording of this, but let me go to the original folk tune to see if that's just like a misprint, right? There's no way there's a fermata in there. I've heard Eastman, I've heard North Texas, I've heard the Air Force Band. Nobody played a fermata there. It's not even one in the music. So let me play the actual tune.
All in the month of May, down by the banks of Claudie, I carelessly did stray. There I beheld a young maid in sorrow, deep and pain.
There was a little pause there. Interesting. So for me, and again, my decisions are now based on the original intention of that. So now we have some ideas here. I may really be different and put a slight fermata right there. Who cares what a judge is going to say? If I'm being musical and I let them know in the score ahead of time, I give a crap about that. Because again, my intention is to be true to the music, not what a publisher says about a different intention of it. So we have already a musical idea there. But looking back at letter H, sing, bum, ba, yum, ba, dee, da, dee, da. Oh, sorry, I actually have to show you the score. Here we go. Zoom, supposed to go fortissimo at letter H, and then we kind of back off to mezzo forte there. Ba-yum, ba-dee-da-dee-da-dee-da-dee-da-dee, ba-deem, ba-dee-da-dee-da-dee-da-dee-da-dum-dee-dum, ba-dee-da-da-dee-um, ba-dee-da-dee-da-dum. Or even if you don't do the fermata, that's just an out there idea you could justify. But even if I just want to impact that, I still want to bring out measure 120 and 122. Ba-dee-da-da-dee-um, ba-dee-da-dee-da-dum. And maybe you have a few ideas there. You can clip that. Ba-dee-da-da-dee-um, ba-dee-da-dee-da-dum. Or ba-dee-da-da-dee-um, ba-dee-da-dee-da-dum. A slight lilt. But anyway, you have ideas what you can do there. And then looking around, what tends to happen for those that have the dee-um, 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 the horns, trombone, euphonium, and tubas, those have a tendency to kind of push tempo. You want them to kind of lay back in the cut. Listen to the melody. And maybe, because they're kind of playing the same rhythmic figure, they can crescendo for, or they can phrase that with the group. So for example, 2 + 2, or you can do 4 there. But you're giving them some kind of direction to play that matches with what they're doing. And then once you get it locked down, the 1-2-1-2, or in this case, the 6-8 beat pattern, that's out the window. Now you're showing overall phrasing here. So if I just push forward a little bit, the next section going into letter I, this is a big moment here. And the actual tune is ayo, ayo. It's like a rally call, if you will, for the Irish. So for me, when that comes in, I may want to color that with the cornet one line because they haven't played yet. And what I mean when I say by color it, meaning having that sound dominate the texture. Just to be clear. So that IO kind of goes to the clarinet and the sax is at 130 and 131. So ideally you have a 2 plus 2. Back into it. And then from here, you have this piano. So almost 8 times out of 10, the group doesn't play this soft enough going into letter J. Because not only is it piano in the woodwinds, look at the brass. They're all pianissimo. You see that, right? So we're going from this forte, mezzo, forte land to softer, even though he puts like everybody playing. So it's going to be just a different kind of balancing technique. You have to kind of adjust there. But the reason he has it at letter J for Jones is so he can set up the phrasing that's coming next. And notice how even in the brasses, he kind of highlights the downbeats there. So now we're building some kind of inner intensity here. So even though it's softer, we're conducting very smaller, we kind of start engaging in the face now. Now, quick segue. There was a study done about 12 years ago with a lot of the major orchestras in Europe. And the study was, from your perspective as a musician, what part of the conductor do you rely the most on for information? Is it the baton? Is it the hand? Is it the arm? What is it? 68% of them said they get most of their information from the conductor from their face. 68%. And they say the face in regards to how do you want me to come in and play this? How do you want the intensity of this to be? Or how do you want me to play this in regards to the ending of a phrase? So knowing that, and these are the professional musicians, 68% is a pretty large number. So we have to figure out a way, like Jack talked about in the warm-up, to work on engaging this because we can be as big or as small as possible, but if we're not engaging the face, it's not going to be as reciprocal from the students. Or I have a 4-year-old child. It's different when I say, come here versus boy, come here. Just in my different facial reaction, my child knows, oh, I'm in trouble, or I can come in whenever I want to. So all that to say, you can show a lot of musical intensity just by the face and muting what you're doing with the hands. So back to the music, though. We're kind of setting all this up at J. Then we kind of get to this crescendo around 148. Then we get to fortissimo going to letter K. So think about that. Double P, level 2, fortissimo, level 9. So we only, according to the score, we have 4 measures to get from level 2, which is at 148, the crescendo, to fortissimo, level 9. So we have a huge range we have to explore and set up in order to make letter K make sense. And that's when Holtz brings back in the bass drum and the cymbals. So already that kind of indicates to me, anytime we have that kind of percussion, bass drum with cymbals, something important is happening here. Then obviously, once we get to the back end of this music, we kind of go back to the recap. So with all of that I just said, I'm going to start the music back around Swansea Town to see if we can kind of conduct into that. Any questions about anything before we get back into the recording of it?
I have a question.
Yeah.
With the brass, you know, when they're coming in with the footsteps thing, I've heard like all sorts of different articulations. Like I've heard like, you know, the extra staccato, I've heard the heavy, I've heard like the, you know, like the tenuto type articulation. What do you suggest?
Yeah, for me, that's a great question because all of those answers you said, you can justify based on what happened earlier in the music. For me, though, because I'm trying to set up letter K, I want that to be light, or basically very secco, so very, very dry. Especially with the woodwinds going on top of that. I'm trying to get to it in the music here. That's moving to. But that would be my interpretation of it. And then when we set that up with the before we go back to the capo, we're setting up to be a bigger thing. So for me, it's going light to heavy.
Okay.
But starting heavy at that point too, that justifies that as well.
Quick question. How long would it take for you to teach something like this to a high school group? Or does it depend on the level?
Yeah, it does depend on the level. You know, it depends on where they are, because obviously you got to take more time with the technique of things. But I plant these seeds in their heads day one. Like, yeah, we're going to talk about F major and all that. But before we play one note, at the very beginning, it has to be light. It has to be together. So now we play it failure or epic failure, right? All right, so yes, you remember what F major is, right? It's the middle finger, not the first one. It's the unholy finger. Press that one as you're going up. Try it again. 2, ready, go. That's better. Now it still needs to be lighter. Now, can we play that maybe 10% softer and think about whatever you're hearing? You know, the vertical alignment, making sure the tongue placement is blah, 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 blah. So my feedback is technique driven, but I'm starting off with this is how the music needs to be day one. Now, hopefully we start building that technique to get there, but I want to get that image in their head from the jump. Now, from there, depending on level of group, it may take more time, obviously, if we're still struggling with certain technique, tongue placement, air speed, getting softer, blah, 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 blah. But talking about these extra musical things, that's from the very beginning for me.
Can I add one more thing?
Mm-hmm.
And just to add on to that, I think the more and more you dive into the score and you know what you want to say to the kids, the easier that becomes to translate to them, because you're already teaching them these concepts of how to do certain articulation, certain styles. And so when you get that inner oral image in your head, you can easily transfer it to the students. It may not come right on like Dr. Jones was saying, but if you have it in you, it'll be easier to translate to them.
And I will say this too, as far as working with high schools with these this music, because like last year I did first suite with my high school band, and I've worked on this piece, the second suite, with a couple of different high schools. They really buy into this. Like, I don't know what it is about hosts, but the high school kids love it, and so like when they buy into it, it's easier, you know, for them to buy into the style that you want them to play, or you know, for them to really understand, because you know they pay attention to what they like. And so like a lot of times this piece is it's hard and it requires a lot of like technique, but it's very teachable because it's so likable by them. So it's not something I would shy away from.
Yeah. Great point. All right. Any other questions before we get to quote unquote fun? And so for me, just to kind of put that out there, so I did kind of really gloss over the score study practice. So it takes time to get to this point, obviously. But for me, I try to figure out either a phrase or a sub-phrase and have an idea. And I have a little like notepad next to me of why in the hell is a crash cymbal right here on B2? Why is there a triangle right here? Why is trumpets doing this? So I'm just writing all these questions. I have to figure out the whys, if you will. And then as I go more into it, or maybe hear different recordings or get more involved with the score, then, okay, the crash cymbal is here because he's conveying this idea from the folk song, which is in the third verse of the Swansea Town. So now for me, I add conviction. It's like, there's no other way you could tell me this has to be. Like, I know for sure. I'm putting a Fermata in Claudie Banks. I don't care what you think, because my homework told me that this is the case. The same way people believe in politics, like Trump. So whatever you do with the music, so to speak, is having a certain conviction of fear. Okay, it has to be this way. So when you get to the rehearsal, your excitement and you exude things, that stuff feeds off on people, right? You know, like, that's the reason you have certain leaders who are impactful, even though they're leading you to destruction, is because people are believing what they say, like put Lysol in your body. So I'm going to count down from 5, and we're going to conduct starting from around Swansea Town. If I offended anyone, I apologize. The thoughts and comments are a reflection of Kelvin Jones, not LSU. So here we go. 5. Well, actually, I got to go back to the music here. You know what? We're going to go from the very beginning. Do the whole thing. Very beginning of the music. You know, from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Soft and small. Now back to bigger. Even bigger. Set it up, Melded Gesture. E. Foot soldiers. Horn trombone. Tuba. Piano, crescendo fortissimo, crescendo, grow it, set it up. Melded Gesture here. Crash cymbal, you better play it, boy. Come on, hit it. Crash cymbal coming up. Minor. Ayo, ayo. Piano here, pianissimo. Now setting it up. Surprise coming. And then to the beginning. So that's kind of big picture idea, just some stuff on there. And you can go into a lot of different details of even how the march aspect should be phrased there, how you want to get to the fine when it comes back around, slowing those things down, or even just building kind of excitement. So even the piano pianissimo part around letter J, that's a moment for woodwinds to really shine there. So right now, my show, so for me, like, especially when I was teaching my group, especially the demographics I had, we got a jig right here, y'all. And speaking of that, there was another study that was shown. They showed two groups playing the exact same music, exact same recording. One group moved around a lot. The other group moved around not at all. And they asked which group was more musical. Overwhelmingly, the people said, oh, that group that was moving, it was group B. They were just so musical in how they phrased things and blah, 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 even though they heard the exact same thing. All that to say, it's in our disposition that sometimes what we see impacts what we hear. I know, me being African-American in the South, that's the case. You know, they just, people have their own biases, own prejudices. So all to say, knowing that research shows that if you move more with you play, you seem more musical, I want to get my kids to that habit sooner. So maybe to get them to show those effects, because all the pros do that. You watch your best musician in whatever orchestra or setting, they're going to do that. Even the best pop musician, Lil Wayne is moving at a concert. Bruno Mars is too. So if we can get our kids to start showing those musical elements while playing it, even if we're doing classical music in halts, it's only going to transfer to the musical making ability of going from a pianissimo to setting up a fortissimo. Think about your favorite Asian group at Midwest that plays. Some of those groups, especially the Japanese ones, they're training their students. You move 4 measures here, and then you come back here. So they're all synchronized in how they're doing it. Granted, they're playing like freaking amazing, but it's also like, man, they're just so musical. And they're like 3 years old. So if we can get our 13 and 14, 15-year-old musicians just at least thinking about music in this way, that's gonna make it. What if they play scales that way? That's gonna just take them to think about music again more horizontally versus just everything has to be vertical. And I'm not poo-pooing that, because of course you got to play in time, in tone, in rhythm, and all of that. But for me, the music, the secret sauce, the Tony Chachere's, if you will, which is Cajun seasoning, by the way, you know, it lies in what you're doing with the music. And that's what makes our profession freaking cool. It's when we can't get to that moment is when, at least for me, it's frustrating. Like, yeah, there's beauty in teaching technique. Yes, we have to sound good and play well, but it's going to be freaking awesome if we can spin this phrase. And if we can do this a certain way, everybody's going to have more of a memorable experience. And then your papa and mama in the audience are going to really enjoy what you're doing. So just my quick spiel on the first movement. I have opinions about the second and third one. Like if you just a geek like me and you have the score, look at the third movement, look at the very last chord. And my questions are like, why did Holtz write a D major chord that way? And why in the hell is a suspended symbol at triple F? And then you think back to the story I was saying earlier, Song of the Blacksmith, you're working. What happens when you put hot iron into water? It makes a sizzle sound. So for me, maybe when I teach it with my group, suspended symbol, you better go ham on that because you have to convey a certain emotion. Or maybe moving forward, when we start in the beginning, why does he start with alto and tenor sax doing a certain thing? It's a drinking song. That means saxophone players are typically drunk. I don't know. That works for college kids, maybe not for high school kids. But you see what I mean? You're kind of getting them to think about music in a different way. So any questions? Thank y'all for y'all time. I got a chance to just geek for an hour, so I appreciate that.
I wish I would have hit you up before I took the first movement to festival last year. I mean, we did great, but this would have been extra level of awesome.
No, it's just, and first movement has these ideas too, especially the end of that chaconne and how you go to the third movement. So I just think the more we can think about music in that way, at least for me, it helps students out when it comes to, all right, especially for me, what I did was I taught kids in my high school, it was weird. It was de facto segregation. All the black kids did band. Band was considered, like in this area, the HBCU Southern style. But the only thing that was integrated was football. White kids did baseball. Black kids did track and field. Black kids did basketball. White kids did soccer. So we started off with, it was 80% black. By the time I finished, it was like 40 or 50. It was like, it got 50-50 by the time I finished. All to say, it was like lower income kids, African-American kids from a certain disposition and certain background, certain ideology. So I had to do certain things to kind of sell them on, this is why playing them basses is freaking cool. Yeah, it may not be Wayne, or even when we played Little Scrappy Head Busters, we would talk about this is in D minor. Let's talk about if you turn that F natural to F major, F sharp. Oh boy, that's a whole new sound right there. So, I am being an actor, if you will, but I'm selling music. So when it came down to that, even though we're playing Headbusters, we're talking about the theoretical side of it. So when it came down to playing, hell, my first year, Blue Ridge Saga, James Swearingen, which is like a grade 2, grade 3, if you will, educational-based music. But I'm selling them on, this E-flat major chord. If you just go up to that third and crescendo a little bit, how would that sound? And then they have them play it, really overdo it. Hey, well, what do y'all think? Do it without it. So you basically just not tricking them, but you're selling them on, this is why music is so freaking cool. And if you don't do it this way, you're lame. You're like the rival high school up the street. Don't be like us. So it's just selling them on that idea because we do music and music's freaking awesome. So, but all to say, that's just my teaching approach, how I approach the score. And then by that first rehearsal, like the question I had earlier, I'm ready to go making music. Yes, I know my saxophones are really weak and I got to worry about keeping the corners firm. I have to worry about on the euphonium, getting to the upper F. That's going to be sharp. I got to worry about all these technique things that because you have the teaching and training, but all that's going to be impacted. This is going to sound more, you're going to make more sense phrasing this if we can keep that F concert down, or we can throat tone the A's and clarence or blah, blah, blah. That's going to help us convey this musical idea, this story that we want to get across. Some music lends itself to that like this. Some of it doesn't. If I'm doing Hindemith, maybe not. But there may be some aspects of that if I'm doing Bernstein. It just depends on what you're doing. But you can always figure out a way to sell a kid on something that we do. Because if your kids are like mine, they coming in like, man, I don't want to play this stuff. Like, why is this cool? You got to really sell them on. And hell, I teach at LSU. And even when we played pop tunes, we did a thing last year, the marching band, Baychella. And we're like, have these kids never even seen it. It was like, I don't care what you think. You may not know what Pastor Troy We Ready is, but this gonna slap when we play it this way, And then by the end, they just see my excitement. I know most of my kids never even seen it, never even heard of it, of the Coachella performance. We took a vote. We realized only 4 kids did. But by the end of us playing just these arrangements, it's like I taught them something that they didn't know about. And then we kind of made a little homework lesson. Now you go on Netflix and see how Beyonce slayed this. So you may not know Hey in the Middle of Bond, but trumpets, y'all better come in and play it this way because we have to vape, blah, blah, blah. It's all to say this can transfer to marching band, concert band. Music is music. And in my opinion, there's one way to play good music, one way to play bad music. As long as you do music at a certain level and show your passion behind it, it's going to transfer, in my humble opinion.
With the pops. All right, well, everyone thank Dr. Kelvin Jones for dropping some knowledge with us today.
So good.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Oh man. So how are y'all still in school for the most part? Still doing the teaching?
Distance learning. Yeah.
Yep. One more week.
Our last day was actually yesterday, so we are officially
Y'all
done.
are lucky.
Yeah, I was over it.
My son's last day.
This week, and I'm done.
Here in Maryland, we're going till June 16th.
June 16th.
Yep.
Ooh-wee.
Right.
So what are y'all doing, or planning to do for another month?
I don't know. I have to upload next Friday, and I'm going to string that assignment out for about 3 or 4 more weeks.
That's what you do.
Then for my choir, I did choir bingo where I gave blocks of 25 different activities. I said, you're responsible for 5 a week.
Mm.
And it's only so much you can probably do too, especially you have access to. I know some programs around here, they gave kids some Chromebooks and some laptops, but they don't have Wi-Fi at home. And then there are some programs they gave them a hotspot, but it was like, oh, we use it all, so it's like you can only try so much, you know what I mean? It's just crazy.
We just had a parent email us and say, oh, my kid doesn't have internet or a laptop. Ma'am, you got an email 2 months ago that said if you needed Wi-Fi, Verizon, Comcast, Spectrum, they're all coming out and putting Wi-Fi in homes for free for these families.
Yeah. It's something that comes to something my wife said. It was even if you have kids there, just some parents just aren't trained for that. You know what I me's? There's a reason we go to school and get a background to do that. And hell, I have a 4-year-old child, and I can tell you, I am not fit to teach elementary. So patience is. I don't know. It's been a learning lesson for me. So I can just imagine a parent who doesn't, who's working, doesn't have time for that. It's just, it's one less thing to worry about. That's why, we do what we have. It's just crazy.
What are you guys doing? Are you starting on time, or I feel like whatever you guys do, we'll end up doing at South Carolina. So I'm like, what y'all doing? As far as starting school or whatever.
Talking about us at LSU?
Yeah.
Yeah, we just finished. This is our finals week this week. Praise Jesus. I turned in my grades Tuesday. But right now we have 6 different contingency plans. Obviously the biggest thing is going to be football. That runs, the university in a lot of capacity. So, and hell, society to a certain extent. So I know a lot of them are trying to figure out what they're going to do, but we have contingencies of if everything happens as normal, or if we're asked to come back but have to practice social distancing. That's the tricky part, because we marched 325 people, and while we can be outside, it's South Louisiana, and it rains every other day. So, and then, all right, we can space out, but is it proven, or do we know for sure that staying 6 feet away is actually the best practice? We do have some research that shows that being outside, you're 20 times less likely to catch COVID-19 than being indoors. So for us, it's all right, which is first outdoors. But if it's raining or it's lightning, I don't know the answer to that. So we're trying to figure that out, and how does our band camp work with that? But there's even been talk of we come back as normal, and then in late October, we go back to remote teaching, because there's been some studies from the CDC, or recommendations from the CDC, that shows that once it gets colder, it's like flu season, it's going to ramp it back up, the pandemic. So they're talking about going back to remote teaching in late October and then resume in February. That doesn't make hella sense to me. And then there's even talk of starting in January and having the football go into April, and basketball go into June, and basketball into June, and basketball into July, August, which again, I don't know. And I think in any one of those scenarios, you have unintended consequences. We could do that, but for Louisiana, that can work. But I'm trying to imagine football in Minnesota in January. That's no. Ain't nobody got time for that. And so then even with all of those, we start on time. There have been some schools Rutgers said they're not starting back school until August 1st. Oregon yesterday just said all large sporting events are, I think, canceled until September or something. So that's can you have football or, whatever in those states? So there's been some talk with conferences saying if majority of our conferences can begin and 1 or 2 or 3 can't, then we'll just proceed without them. But then you get to equity because Iowa, for example, is opening up June 1st. So those players can train and do all that stuff and have school. And if you're at Rutgers and you can't start till August 1st, you know, that's a whole 2 months of someone training and all that stuff. Now, I'm not naive. I'm fairly certain these coaches are finding a way to train their players, you know, but it's just the equity aspect of it. If a governor's saying they're not doing something, but the other governor says yes, how can you be fair and still move forward? And then just speaking from a business standpoint, at least on our end, because there were talks about we open up home games, but only allow like 1/3 of the fans to come in. Now, which 1/3 are you going to allow? The ones who got money. And so, you know, out of the 102,000 people, so that's what, 33,000, 34,000, is that truly home field advantage? Are you really preventing the spread to happen if we don't have mechanisms to actually test what you have or not? Because, and then the next point of that is, I'm speaking from my experience at LSU. We just won that championship game. Joe Burrow, you mean to tell me if your star player has COVID-19, you gonna bench him? Let's say you're playing, you know, LSU, Alabama, and our star wide receiver is sick. You know what I mean? Like, you're gonna need somebody else to step in and be like, yeah, no, you can't do it. I can very easily see we gotta win this game. Hell, they made a whole documentary on Michael Jordan in a flu game. You know what I mean? So imagine Michael Jordan had COVID-19, you know, like, you know, but and I'm being facetious when I say that, but those are just things to consider. Like, if the primary goal is to be safe and secure, we don't have a mechanism in place for that just yet. So I don't know the answer, but we've been going over every little scenario. And then 10, like, I'd be fine, but what if a kid comes in with that stuff and then spreads it to some of our older staff members, you know, then I don't know how I would feel about that, even if I may not be as immune to it, whatever. So there's always if this happened, that happens, this happened, that happened. And we're in a situation now of plan for this, plan for that, plan for that, plan for that, plan for that. And it's like, hell, planning for a regular band camp, as hard as it is, you know, let alone with, if this happens, you do that. If that happens, you do this. And if that happens, so that's where we are. I don't know if I answered your question, but we've thought about it, but it is very much so this way. But I do think by July 1st, they're going to have some kind of hardcore stance, because we've already decided if the season opens back up, we're not going to travel the band to any games, because how can you justify having 50 people on a bus sharing, you know, 4 to a room? But at the same time, like, we could test it. I don't know. It's just, what if, because they were saying you could test the kids on Thursday before you travel on Friday. What if a kid goes to Taco Bell at 3 a.m. and they catch it from somebody and then they bring it back, and it's the whole safety thing, you know? And outside of making everybody take shots of Lysol, I can't figure out a way to prevent the spread according to, you know, our leadership. So, yeah.
We still don't have a vaccine.
Yeah.
All right.
I think all for sure.
But thank y'all for your time, though, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see. Next week, bring a friend. Bring a friend. If you don't know anything about the Conductors reToolbox Facebook group, please join us. Let's see. I want to put a plug in. We did a score study session last week. So if you get a chance to go and check that out, just want to plug that. And next week we're going to be doing Dancing Fire by Kevin Day. If you don't know who Kevin Day is, he's a young Black composer, does some really, really great music. And this is about a grade 3 and really, really replayable for your band. So we'll do some more work and talk about
should invite Kevin on, man.
Kevin's music, and maybe.
Yeah.
And then lastly, I want to invite y'all, if y'all haven't been or heard about the Band Directors Shop Talk group on Monday nights. It's a really, really cool group. It's a group for us, and they bring in a lot of great people to share their knowledge and resources with us. This week we're going to do they're going to do a composers panel, and it's Monday evenings, and I suggest you come out. Other than that, thank you guys for your time. Tell Kelvin, great job, and all the other good stuff. And
good.
And until next time, guys.
Yeah, have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.